Good afternoon, everybody. Michelle, what's up? You look nice.
Thank you.
Closing a deal today or what?
Maybe, you never know.
There you go.
No, Genesis and I are going door knocking in a little bit.
One of the other small dub from yesterday, one of the new coaching students, Sonny, we had our first call yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, I'm going to go door knock this house in Kerman because it's like right around the corner from me. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go do it, man. So he goes and door knocks, calls me like in the guy's living room, like 20 minutes later. And he's, dude, I'm in the living room. I don't know what to say. Like, here's the phone. And so it friggin' qualified him, did the whole appointment, like not an appointment over the phone, but basically set it up for an appointment today. And he's got an auction coming up in not next Thursday, but the Thursday after. So I feel
Oh,
really
wow.
where we're at, dude. So yeah.
That's awesome.
You'll always be rewarded taking action, everybody. It was a good thing from him. All right. We've got a decent sized group. I'm going to attach all of the documents I'm going to reference throughout this call today into the chat. So give me a second and let me just do that really quick. So let me put all of these in. And then we will get started here. All right. All right, a couple more and then we'll get going here. Jacob, I just saw your text, dude. Do you want to like connect over the phone or something just to touch base on that deal that you got?
Yeah, dude, that's fine. Just like whatever.
I've got a call with Devaniel after this, and then I'm going to be on the road in the afternoon. So then I'll just hit you up, dude, and we can connect on that.
Okay.
All right. We've got deed of trust, note, flipping spreadsheet, and what's the last one? All right, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. All right. So today we are going to talk about raising private money. So we're going to go over a number of different things. As always, guys, the best way to absorb these trainings is I like cameras on. I like people being involved. I definitely want this training to be, I'm going to do a lot of talking, obviously, but I like these to be a little bit more interactive. So if you've got questions, just feel free to unmute yourself. We're not going to go, anything crazy. Just unmute yourself or ask, or if you guys can't do that, drop it in the chat and then we'll get to it. So we're going to go over lots of different things today. I'll give you a framework for what we want to cover, and then we're going to go step by step, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. So first things first, I want to talk about what's the difference between private money and hard money. Okay. Just to set a stage, especially for some of the new investors, because I think some of those terms get used interchangeably. Then we're going to talk about the best places that I have seen to find your first private money lenders. Okay. I think most people just don't know where to start. There's lots of intimidation because it's like, hey, we're asking for lots of money to fund some of our deals, especially when we're new. There can be a lack of confidence in our ability to relay that information correctly, right? So then we're going to talk about, once you found them, what do we need to talk to them about? What does that first discussion look like? What are the documents that I need to bring? Like what am I bringing into this meeting for this person that I'm about to ask $400,000 from, right? So I think giving you guys the tools and the systems to be really confident in that meeting. Okay. Then we're going to talk about how I think that meeting should go. Then we're going to talk about a funding request and how to put that funding request together. And then we'll talk about the easy part, which is the paperwork, right? Having title do the paperwork and do all of that stuff, right? So we've got lots of stuff to cover. And then we'll go from there. Let me just get a quick pulse of the room here really quick. How many people, if you can either drop in the chat or just chime in really quick, how many of you guys have successfully borrowed money from a private money lender? How many guys have done that before? I see Sam raising his hand, Jacob raising his hand, Michelle raising her hand, excuse me. If you're in the chat, feel free to drop that in if you guys have done it. Let's talk about private money versus hard money, okay? Hard money is a company like we all know, the Zinc Financials of the world, the Kiavis of the world. the Conventuses of the world. These are lenders that have a lending business that are designed to lend money to people like us that are on this call, real estate investors, right? So hard money lenders don't look as much as the borrower, right? Like us as the borrower, like if we go get a mortgage, we've got to go through underwriting, we've got to have the right credit score, we've got to have the right debt to income ratio. With hard money, they're going to look at you as a borrower, so you can't have shit credit or, you know, some other things, but they're really going to look at the deal more often than not. So for most of you guys that are on this call, you're going to be like me when I first started. I didn't just dive immediately into pools of like private money from all these millionaire people. I didn't know anybody that had money, frankly, right? So the first people that I went to were hard money lenders. Did anybody else start like that? Sam, I see you shaking your head, right? Jacob, right? Most of us start that way because we don't have those relationships in place. So the key difference that I want you guys to note, okay, between hard money and private money. Hard money is a company, and a hard money lender is typically never going to give you all the money that you need upfront to do the deal. And that's probably the biggest difference between hard money and private money. Hard money will give you sometimes when you're starting 70, 80% of what you're buying the house for. And as you get more of a track record and you start doing more deals, they may do 90%. Sam, has anybody given you 100% purchase and rehab yet? Is Kiavi doing that with you?
Yeah, we have Kiavi at 100%.
And Kiavi giving you 100%, you're still doing rehab draws, or they changed their draw system, right?
No, yeah. So we just basically, I just call for a draw with lockbox. They go out there, look at it, and then they just, you know, they pay us the next day. The draw system with Kiavi as a pro member is very, very quick and easy.
So one of the things that I suggest for you guys, especially those of you that are taking houses down and rehabbing them and reselling them, right? You want to get into the good graces of a hard money lender as fast as possible. Sam mentioned Kiavi's pro account. I think you need to be able to show that you've done 5 deals in the last calendar year, the last 12 months. I think that's the criteria in order to qualify. And the terms start to get much more aggressive, right? So for most of you on this call, the starting off point is going to be hard money. What I don't personally like about hard money is even though hard money is fast, it's not as fast or convenient as private money, right? And the grail here is getting all the money that you need upfront without having to jump through a million hoops, appraisers, and all the different checklists and things that you need to submit there, right? So hard money is a company that we typically start with. Private money is who we all want to transition to. And these are people that are your friends and family. They're other real estate professionals. They're people that you meet at meetups. There's people that you meet on social media. These are people that have money to lend, okay, on your deals, right? Let's open it up for a little bit of discussion. Michelle, I'd like to hear from you because I know you've been pretty successful borrowing private money, okay? Mm-hmm. What is, just to give a little bit of context, when did you start? And how many deals have you done? And how much more or less private money have you borrowed if you added up the loan amounts? Just ballpark. It doesn't need to be accurate. We're not going to fact check you here. So just what's some context here?
Okay, we've been doing this for about 1.5 years now, a little over 1.5 years. We've done about 20-something deals with wholesale and flips, and we've raised, I think, about 800,000.
From private money lenders, right?
Yes, yes.
Your flips. Okay.
Yes.
So the profile, guys, of a private money lender that typically makes the most sense, or at least that I've seen, that I've worked with the most, it could be a business owner. It could be another real estate professional. It's usually a private individual or a husband and wife couple. They have, let's call it on the low end, $100,000 to $200,000 saved in their bank account. On the high end, it could be 500,000 up to $1 million, right? So those are the dollar ranges that they have. Okay. They have access to that cash. They've either saved it up, or they have a performing business, or they're a retiree. Okay. And they like the stability of the returns that they get lending the money to real estate investors like us versus what they're seeing in the stock market versus what they're seeing in more volatile assets like cryptocurrency or some other things like that, right? You see all these swings that we have in some of these other investment assets, and us as real estate investors are able to provide a safe and secure return that is backed by what? What is it backed by?
Real estate.
Real estate. And more specifically, what real estate, Sam, is it backed by?
It's going to be that house, the single family
The deal
house.
that you're doing,
Yeah.
right? The house that you're working on, right? So this adds to me an extra sense of security, and here's why, right? If I go to Jacob and I say, hey, Jacob, I know you and I have been talking about potentially working together. We've got an investment opportunity. I'm going to buy the house for 200 grand. I need about 75,000 to fix the house up and cover my holding costs and all the other things. And it's worth about 350 to 375 all fixed up. Okay. Worst case scenario, right? If I stop performing or I drop dead or I get struck by lightning, how is Jacob secured by that? What does Jacob get to do in that situation?
Well, he's in first position, so he'd be able to sell it or do whatever he wishes.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be easy to have to foreclose on the house. I'm not going to act like there isn't some legal headache there, but his money is secured in a first position loan as collateral for the house. The house is put up as collateral, guys. And that's the first thing that I want you guys to remember here. Okay. So when they put the house up, they have an extra sense of security, right? I know with the stock market and other things, you can wake up and we see these big, humongous swings, right? And if there's something really volatile, there could be scenarios where they wake up one day and it's cut in a third or cut in half, right? If we're doing our job and we're finding good projects, right? We're buying them below market value. We are putting them in a position where they will probably make more money if we stop performing and they took the house up, because you guys should only be buying good deals and borrowing money against good deals, not over leveraging. Okay. So we get extra sense of security from the property and the project that they put on there. Okay. So that's the difference between hard money and private money. Hard money is a company, private money is an individual, right? Now let's talk about where are we finding the people that are going to lend us this money in order to do this. Okay. Here's been my experience, right? The very first place that I went to is meetups. And I met all of my initial private money lenders through networking events and meetups. Okay. So a lot of times we'll go to a meetup and we're there for the information that we're getting, or we're there to network, but we don't go with an intentional ask, and we don't go with anything intentional to say when we're networking with other people. Okay. So one of the things that I would encourage all of you guys to do is when you go to an event, one of the events that we put on or something else that you guys are going to, you need to have an elevator pitch for when you get in front of a private money lender. You need to be able to speak confidently about what you're doing, and you need to know what you're going to say when you talk to that person, right? So my elevator pitch for me sounded like this. At all the first meetups that I would go to, I'd say, hey, either when I introduce myself or I'm meeting somebody individually, either in front of the group or as an individual, I would say, hey, my name's Jason. We've done 10 projects so far this year, and we've got more deals in our pipeline than we actively have funding to close those deals. We're looking to work with private money lenders in the area to help fund some of our next opportunities. Would that be something that you're interested in? The big thing with money, guys, is you have to not be scared to ask. Okay. Does everybody follow and understand what I'm saying? The biggest reason why most of us on this call that are struggling with finding private money is we're too scared to ask. And usually that comes from programming from when we were kids, or our lack of belief in scarcity in money, or our lack of belief to just ask. Sam, what were you going to say?
I think you have to remember too, when you're asking for private money, you're doing them a service too. So you're not just asking for the money and taking it. You're basically beating the stock market or beating any other vehicle that they use to see returns. So think of it as a business relationship versus, hey, I just need to borrow $120,000 and we're going to pay you back. And out of a scarcity mindset, talk that way. You need to say, hey, how would you like to get double-digit returns back by real estate, or how would you like to get better returns in the stock market, or that CD you have at ECU or Noble Credit Union, so on and so forth. But thinking about it as more like a partnership versus me just asking for money, I think that helps. A
the
lot.
big shift, and this is a subtle shift, guys, but there's a mental shift that needs to happen in order to do what Sam just said right now. And that was great advice, Sam. Thank you for chiming in. The big shift has to be, you're not asking for money, you're providing an investment opportunity. When your intent going into that meeting is that I'm providing value by giving this person an investment opportunity that gets them a 10% regular return, that gets them paid out like clockwork, that's secured with a first position deed of trust against a project that I'm doing, that I'm buying below market value, that I'm managing, that I did all the work to do. Your energy that you're going to project when you go to present that investment opportunity is going to be way different than if you're going there like, fuck, can I borrow $200,000? Do you guys follow what I'm saying? Right. And so you don't even bother asking if that's the energy that you're feeling inside. I'm telling you to work on this pitch first and get better at that before you start asking. Okay. So we have to go in there with some confidence, and the confidence shift comes from you really truly believing deep down that you're providing them an investment opportunity, not asking them for money. Scott, go ahead.
I also want to give one point. If you're uncomfortable with this, like I was when I started, you'd be amazed how many people you already have a very close relationship with have some money. The way I started with this, I was 19. I just called people that I knew that I didn't know if they knew about money. And I just said it as if I was asking them if they knew anybody who would be interested, even though in my mind, I had a feeling they may be interested. For me, it was a much less scary thing to do because I already had a very close personal relationship. And I let them tell me if they were interested, or they also referred me to other people I would never have guessed had money that said, maybe you should call them. That sounds intriguing, but I can't do it. So there's people around you. You don't have to go searching necessarily as well. They may be in your close-knit circle.
100%. So let's get to friends and family next. So again, the first thing, and this was actually weird for me because not weird, but this is just how it played out for me. I actually felt more confident asking people I didn't know for money than I did going to my friends and family, right? I was more nervous asking for people that I actually knew. And it actually came from a lack of self-confidence for me because, I had people that were around me that didn't really believe in what I was doing, or maybe had made fun of me when I started getting into real estate, kind of like sarcastically, right? So I wanted to prove my ability by working with a stranger. And then once my track record started to actually grow and take off, my friends and family started coming to me. But I think you can start however you want and whatever you feel comfortable with. But the prerequisite to everything, number one, guys, is you cannot be afraid to ask. So work on your elevator pitch and get comfortable at least with the initial conversation. You are typically not going to get a funding commitment like where this person says, yes, here's $300,000 on talk number one. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? These things have to be nurtured, and they're like specific steps that have to happen. So all you have to do is be comfortable presenting your elevator pitch and asking. And if they say yes, we'll talk about what to do after that as we move through the training. So number one place that you can go, okay? Number one place is meetups. Attend as many meetup events as you can. Talk to the people that are there, and you'll be amazed how many people will eventually be open to doing that, especially if you show up consistently and you start doing things. So that's one. Number two, Scott said friends and family, okay? We can reach friends and family exactly like Scott said. We can do it the old school way, pick up our phone, and we can literally call. And we can do that elevator pitch. I didn't do that because that felt very weird for me and it felt like I was asking for money, right? So another way that you can do that is just organically through the different events that you are attending with your friends and family, birthday parties, weddings. If you're going over to somebody's house for dinner and there are people that are there, the way that I suggest kind of throwing this out there is, instead of maybe even a direct ask, if you're not comfortable doing that right now, okay, you can say, do you know anybody that's interested in doing this? So the elevator pitch is similar, right? You're saying, hey, right, I've got, 3 or 4 deals under my belt. We're looking to double that this year. And the way that we're going to scale is working with private money lenders. Do you happen to know anybody that would be interested in getting a 10% return on their money secured against one of our projects? And a lot of times what that will do is it'll create, if you're talking to the right person, a little bit of FOMO where they're like, well, maybe I'm interested in getting a 10% return, right? So you can do that as a way to kind of casually throw it out there, right? Or you can take the direct approach like Scott and just reach out to some of these people, right? So friends and family are next. Okay. What's probably the fastest is the easiest way to get the most leverage when we're talking about private money? To do one call to action, but touch the most amount of people.
Social media.
Social media. So what would be an example of social media and how we do an ask on social media, Jacob? What would that look like for you?
For me, I'm showcasing the project that I'm doing at the moment or a past one, and then just talking about the fact that I provide the opportunity. And I found a lot of friends and family started contacting me just based on that, and people outside of my network that I didn't know were interested.
So there's a direct call to action where we create a piece of content that lives and stays on our page permanently, right? Where if people are going or they're scrolling, they can run across one of Jacob's videos and say, okay, hey, Jacob's looking for private money. That will work, and that's step one. But what are the things that we need to do to stay top of mind? How do we stay top of mind so people know that we're both active in the business, but also still looking for money? What's the approach there? What are things like that we can do? Jacob, you can chime in, or anybody else.
Post a lot.
Post a lot. How would that?
Stories.
So again, give specifics. Go on your stories and do what?
And post videos of what we're doing, and put the opportunity out there and see if people are, watching it.
The formula, here's a simple formula or a cadence that a lot of you guys can follow. Everybody here knows Gary Vee, heard of Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk, yeah? So his formula is jab, 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 right hook. That's the cadence, okay? So the jabs are you putting out value or sharing something that you're doing, right? So like Jacob said, on your stories, or even on the content that lives and breathes on there. You don't want to be on there like asking for money with every single post. Does everybody follow what I'm saying? Not every post should be an ask, right? So the ask comes at the end after you've over-delivered on value. So over-delivering on value is creating content, showing what you're doing and showing that you're an active investor, right? Showing that you're actually in the business. Here's me at a project. Here's a successful project that I've completed. Here's how much money we made on the project, right? Here's me and my stories every single day doing all of the steps that real estate investors do so people can follow along and stay engaged, right? So you want to do 3 or 4 pieces of content that provide value, pull the curtain back, or entertain, or show that you're an expert in the field. And then the right hook in Gary Vee's formula is the ask. It's like what Jacob is saying. It's like, hey guys, here's what I do on my story, right? We post a bunch, and then when I need something, right, I'll say, hey guys, I've got, 3 deals that I've got in contract right now. We need to raise about $900,000. If you're interested in like lending on the deal, reach out to me so we can set up a time to talk. That's what I post on my stories if we're short on money from our private money lenders. But I very rarely do that because most of the stuff that I'm doing is just content around what we've got going on. So people are following and they're engaged by the content. Then there's an ask. So social media is another one. I have some other low-hanging fruit for you guys. What are other ways that we found private money lenders?
For
How
me,
many people have got it from their escrow officer? How many people on here? Sam's raised your hand. Michelle raised their hand. If you guys are doing lots of deals, or if you're doing any deals, period, you typically always have an escrow officer that you're working with. Your escrow officer is also the person, and you're going to see this as we move on in this training. They're the ones that are typically going to do your note and your deed of trust for your private money lender. So if you're short right now, right, on private money, and you're a guy like Milton who's actively doing deals, right, but I need to make relationships with more private money lenders. Milton, are you using the same or similar escrow officers when you're going on and doing your deals to buy and sell your properties? Is it usually the same people?
Yeah, it's usually the same escrow officer.
Are you bringing value to that escrow officer by continuing to reciprocate and patronize their business and do your deals with them?
Yep. I always
And-
tell them if they help me out, then I'll bring them more business than I usually do.
Exactly. So helping them out could be a referral to a seller, but a lot of times, guys, it's a referral to a private money lender because these escrow officers are the ones that are contacting your lender on your behalf. They're doing all the loan paperwork. A lot of times they're coming in and signing. They get to build a relationship with them, and they may be able to connect you with somebody that you don't know. Okay. So escrow officers are another one. So we got meetups, we've got friends and family, got social media, we've got escrow officers. Anything else that we haven't covered from anybody else? Go ahead. Nelson, go first.
Past clients, bro. As a real estate agent, I've raised money from past clients before that I know have walked away with a substantial amount of money from the sale of a rental property or a property they inherited. And that's how I've raised money in the past as well.
That's a very good one. You know who else is a past client if you're not an agent? Who else?
People you buy the house from.
Who do we buy the house from that just got paid, right? Especially like these older, savvier sellers that have been in the business, the absentee landlord guys, the guys that don't even need the fucking money. They just don't want to deal with the house and they don't need to do with the money. You just transacted a very big deal with them by buying their property. You know more or less how much money they walked away with, right? Makes perfect sense, especially at the end, to go back, do a little bit of customer service, make sure that they were happy with everything, make sure they were happy with their experience with you. And then what do? You put the ask in at the end, right? So again, it all comes back to not being afraid of asking. Jacob, what else were you going to say?
Just a minor one that just came up for me was my notary. So while doing a transaction for private money and recording a second position on a property, they brought up the fact that they knew people and were willing to connect too. So just a minor one there.
That's it. Anybody that's involved in these type of transactions, guys, for sure. And here's the absolute very best one. This is the one that will produce the most for you guys. Okay. The best resource for private money lenders are the people that you're currently borrowing money from. It has proven to me over and over and over again, when I ever need more private money, the very first people that I ask are the people that I'm actively borrowing money from right now. I have one family where one of the daughters initially lent me money, then her mom, then her sister, then her uncle, and then there's somebody else. It's like half of this family tree has got like $3 million out with me right now. And it's just because we have performed so well over time that frankly, like sometimes I don't even have to ask, guys. Like, frankly, they will just come to me and say, hey, my coworker or my brother-in-law or my so-and-so is interested in lending money. So you can't be afraid to ask them. Those are the people that will bring you the most lenders. Okay. So if you've got any questions, feel free to chime in. We've covered the difference between hard money and private money. Now we've covered the people that you need to go talk to. Okay. So here are the people that can become those private money lenders. And here's your elevator pitch to them, right? To get that conversation going, right? What's the next step in the process? We've identified who they are. We've made contact. We've gotten the seed planted in their head. What do we do next? Very next step in the process. I want to make this as systematic for you guys so you can just go step by step here, right? What's the next step from the people that have borrowed money before?
Some will want to walk the deal.
Some
Sometimes
people may want to go walk the deal. So we always want to be an open book, right? So we never, ever want to act like we're not willing to pull the curtain back and show them everything that we're doing, right? So some people will want to go walk the deal, right? Typically, for us, we want to see some type of meeting that gets set after that, right? Once we've made that initial contact. So it can be at a deal, like Vincent said, right? We can take them over to a project and we can have that discussion there. It could also be lunch. It could be coffee. It could be a Zoom meeting. It could be a meeting at your office. But we need to, just like we qualify sellers in our business, guys, right? Once we've qualified that private money lender, right, we need to move them to the next step of the process, which is like our interview or our appointment. Now we need to sit down and actually talk to them. Okay. So when we go down to talk with them, there's some key resources that I want you guys to bring with you. Okay. The first thing that you guys should have is this. So here is a credibility packet. Okay. Does anybody on this call have their own credibility packet already built up or something along the lines that they bring with them? Does anybody ever built one of these before? No. This is really good if you guys, especially if you're new, okay? And this is honestly hasn't been updated in a really long time. I'm going to be honest with you. Jen's shaking her head. She built this for me and I don't even know when. When? It's not that old, but it's old. Okay. It's like maybe 2018. And you're going to see because some of these numbers are old here, but it should be formatted like this. And this is attached in the files in our chat, guy. All the documents that we're going to cover today are all going to be there in the chat. So credibility packet, it's got a cover page. It's got a little bit of a biography on you and a little bit of a bio on your business. Okay. It's got a breakdown of a recent deal that you've done, right? So you actually have a track record there of a deal that you've done, right? If you've never done a deal before, do the breakdown on a deal that you've either made an offer on or a typical deal that you would like to buy, and just be very honest about where you're at in the business. So don't lie to them, guys. But if you've got a deal done already, put a breakdown together, and I'm going to go over the tool that you guys can use to create this stuff, right? It's got all the financials, like all the rehab costs, all of that other stuff. It's got a list of real estate. You can see how old this was. This was back in 2016 to 18, right? So it's got all the projects that you've done. Again, it creates a track record. And then it's got some before and after pictures of the projects that you've done, right? When I first started going on my meetings, you're lacking confidence. At least that's how I felt, right? You're nervous, you're going in there, you've never done this before. So when you have tools and resources to bring with you, the confidence level that you have is going to go up, right? So the best thing that I think that you can do at the beginning is spend a little bit of time. And honestly, you guys can hire a VA. If you guys are used to Canva and you've used Canva, we have an outline of this in Canva. You guys can use that. Just let us know and then we can send it to you. Or you can have a VA just use this as an example, and for 50 bucks or 100 bucks, they can build one for you, like on Fiverr. Honestly, that's probably the easiest thing to do. I wouldn't spend time trying to build this out on your own. Your time is way better off being used for something else. Go on Fiverr or hire a graphic designer, spend 50 bucks and have them build this to you. Just give them the documents that they need. Okay. So we need to have the credibility packet. So it has all that stuff there. Okay. On the initial meeting, let's talk through like the meeting structure. So you guys have a sense of what to say when we're on that call or we're at that coffee or we're there walking the project. Okay. Most important thing that I can express to you guys is the deal is always going to have to make sense, right? So then you never want to bring, especially one of the first or second deals, to one of your brand new lenders. Don't bring them a deal that's really thin or that has a million hoops that they need to jump through, or that's a very high degree of difficulty. Does that make sense to everybody, right? I wouldn't bring like a fire damage property that's going to require all these plans and permits, and you're basically setting yourself up and you're setting your lender up for failure, especially if you've never done a deal like that before, right? So on your very first deal, ideally you want to bring one that has a nice size, hefty profit margin on there, and that's a low degree of difficulty. The deal is going to be important. What's more important than the actual deal and the numbers on the deal when you're meeting with that lender the first time? What's more important than the deal?
Building the trust.
Your ability to connect with the lender and get them to trust you, guys. Okay. The lender at the end of the day, guys, is betting on you. The deal is just the collateral. Okay. Does that make sense? Right? The lender's putting their trust in you. Their lender's putting their belief in your ability to get this deal from A to Z. But the deal and the numbers, and I think that's a big mistake a lot of us make, is they focus too much on the deal and they focus less on building a connection with the actual lender themselves. Okay. So let's talk through how we go about building that connection, because I think this is important. And then we'll talk through how we go into the ask. Okay. So if we're going, right, we're meeting with this person. It might be the first time, it might be a referral for somebody else, but a lot of times there may not be a lot of familiarity there, right? So what are we leading with when we go on this appointment with that lender? Okay. I don't personally believe that we lead with the numbers, the deal, and everything else. We've got to get to know that person a little bit more on a personal level. That's my opinion. Okay. So I think you want to take some time to first find out more about them and what they do. How many people have read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Has anybody read that book? If you have not read that book, that should be mandatory reading for everybody on this call. Okay. How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? The secret, not the secret, but one of the chapters in How to Win Friends and Influence People is the way to get into rapport with that person is by asking that person questions about themselves. Okay. So you should probably do a little bit of homework on this person before you go in there, right? What does homework look like? You take their name and you put them in LinkedIn. You take their name and you put them into a Google search. You ask the person that referred you, what's their background, right? What business are they in? How did they make their money? How did, whatever, what's their real estate experience? Have they done some of these types of loans before? And get connected with them on a more personal level first, right? Once you can get the conversation going about what they've been doing in their experience, then it should pivot to you and your experience. Does that make sense to everybody? Don't go in there, start talking about yourself first. That's probably not the way that I would do it. It's going to come across as ego's really big. Here's everything that I've done, blah, 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 blah. I would spend way less time talking about yourself, and I would spend way more time talking about the person and getting them to know them. Subconsciously, you'll get into more rapport, right? Especially with more successful experience like business owners. My personal experience is they really love to talk about their life, how they've made it. And you know who doesn't talk to them about their shit? Their friends, their family. Nobody fucking cares about that, dude. And so every single time I've sat down and had like lunch with a super successful person, I just start asking a couple questions, and it's like the fucking floodgates open up because nobody ever asked him. It's like, dude, how I had lunch. This happened to me just recently, like a month ago, right before we left to Greece. Everybody, Sam, you're probably familiar with this. If you go down 99, there's a big warehouse called Sencal CNC. There's a huge warehouse facility. The guy's got his own industrial park, right? His wife, yeah, Abe, super fucking cool dude, like really cool dude, okay? His wife messaged me on Facebook and is like, hey, you should talk to Abe. He's thinking about lending some money to people. I know that I've never reached out to you, but I've been following you forever, okay? And I think you would be a really good fit to like sit down and talk with him. Something about you, I trust you. I was like, cool, set up a lunch. She set up a lunch for me like the week before we left to Greece. I sat down, and this fucking guy, Abe, has like an amazing story, dude. Like came from Mexico with nothing, didn't speak English, like started working like somewhere, God knows where, and literally worked his way up. And now the guy is fucking like uber successful, has an amazing business, and has all of these crazy stories, has like a fucking his own private plane, all this stuff. And at the end of it, he's like, dude, you need to come take a tour. I want to take you on my plane. I want to do blah, 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 blah. And all of it, guys, is because I led with intentional, authentic interest in learning more about him. Okay. If you take that approach, it's going to go much better, right? So lead with the person, right? Spend some time talking about that. The conversation should naturally start to become reciprocal. And then they're going to start asking questions about you. When they start asking questions about you, that's when you can talk about your experience. You can talk about deals that you've been doing. And you never want to overstate anything that you've done. If you're brand new and you've only done 2, please just be honest and authentic about what you're doing. That is going to go way better than trying to stretch the truth here, guys. Okay. So now we've gotten past the first part. This should be the bulk of your conversation. Okay. So if you're spending 30 to 45 minutes, the bulk of this conversation should be getting to know the seller. If within 5 minutes you're talking about how much money they're going to lend you, we've probably done something wrong here, guys. Okay. So we need to spend some time getting to know that person and connect with them. Okay. Now that we've established rapport and now that we've established a baseline, here's how I naturally transition the conversation almost 100% of the time. Okay. So it's going to look and feel and sound something like this. So I would say, hey, Abe, dude, it's been really cool getting to know you. It sounds like you've done some amazing stuff. And it really does feel like there's some potential synergies for us to work together. If it's all right with you, right? And if you're open to it, I'd love to send you a funding request on a deal that we have coming up, just so you can see how everything works, the terms, the amounts, all the other stuff that's there. And you tell me if it's something that's a fit for you or not, right? And so I transition to the ask after that point. If he says, yeah, Jason, that sounds good, I would like be interested in funding your deal. It's important for you guys to get a baseline for how much money they're willing to commit. So here's where you have to go in for a specific ask, okay? And you set the expectations. Don't just say, well, how much money are you willing to lend me, okay? Here's how you go in for the ask without like feeling like you're just asking them for money. I would say this. I'd say, Abe, man, that's great. I'm really looking forward to doing something with you. Here's how we structure everything. And based on our talks, you can see in our business model, we move very, very fast, right? And I don't want to waste your time or my time by sending you a bunch of hypothetical deals that we're not ready to close on. So I'm never going to waste your time and say, hey, 123 Main Street, do you think you would do this, right? We're only ever going to send you a deal where the contract's been signed, escrow has been opened, and we feel confident that all the title issues and everything are clear, and we've got a clear runway to get this deal closed, right? That being said, knowing our business moves quickly, we usually only have a week to 2 weeks to get that property closed from that point in the transaction. So if I send you a funding request, a couple things that I need to know. One, I need to get a affirmative response within 24 hours, because if for whatever reason you say no, okay, I got to have time to send it to some of my other private money lenders that would potentially be interested in the deal. So I need some urgency when your decision-making process is there, right? Two, I need to have a sense of what you feel comfortable lending on this very first deal, because I don't want to send you an opportunity for 300,000 if your number is less. And if you want to lend more, I don't want to send you something that, you know, is too small to get your interest. Does that make sense? Right? So do you feel good about making a commitment within 24 to 48 hours if we send it? Yes. Great. How much do you feel comfortable lending on this very first opportunity, right? The very first one that I send you, so I can make sure that we only get deals in front of you that fit the criteria that works best for you. That's how I would present it every single time. And if you present it that way and you do it that way, you'll set the expectation that you need to get a decision right now, like immediately. And typically that's when we need a response, guys, right? We can't send it to it and have the lender wait for a week or 2 weeks, because our business model is not such where we can wait for an answer, right? We've got to get an answer immediately. And we need to know what amount they're willing to lend when they're doing it. Okay. Anybody have questions about that? Shoot.
It's a small deviation from the topic, but if you have someone submitting interest to you, maybe a friend that's direct messaging you off of a call to action, and their simple ask is, how much do you need, or how much can I lend you? What's like a one-liner response to take that to the next step, that conversation?
I would say for me, my response to that would be, honestly, it's going to depend on what you feel comfortable with. We should probably set up a time to talk. The minimum loan amount that's going to work for me based on where our business is at is about $100,000, right? Anything less than that, at least where we're at, it's more hassle than what it's worth. Like borrowing $25,000 or $50,000 for us. I'm not saying that that's what the case is for you guys. We're going to talk about how we can piece together a hard money lender and a private money lender in second position with the smaller loan in a little bit, right? So you can use smaller chunks of money, but here's my experience. The guys that, or the girls that lend me hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million, they're the lowest maintenance lenders that I have. They honestly, like, they never check up on me. They never want to go see the project. All they care about is the money. And a lot of times they don't even need the money every month. They're just like, Jason, doing the accounting on these payments every month is a pain in the ass. I trust you. Just pay me at the end. Okay. Just pay the interest deferred, right? The lenders that are typically, honestly, the biggest pain in the ass are the ones that lend you the smallest amount of money, because it's all their fucking money. You know what I mean? And I don't blame them. It's like, if I give Scott the last 25 grand that I got in my bank and I'm fucking sweating and I'm like, shit, Scott, what is going on? I'm going to be fucking calling Scott every other week. And Scott doesn't want to deal with that shit, dude. So I would be weary of taking anything less than really $50,000. I used to do lots of $50,000 to $75,000. But I think 100 for us is the minimum. And now if you can make smaller chunks work in the form of gap funding, like I know Kiavi is okay with second position gap funding, then take 50 grand, right? And you gotta become kind of a financial engineer in how you structure all of this stuff, guys. And you gotta get good at that, right? And it isn't always just private money. It can be your HELOC. It can be an advance against your 401k. It could be a cash advance on your credit card. You've got to get really creative in a responsible way and how you structure the financing for a lot of these deals if you really want to scale at the beginning. Scott, were you going to say something?
I think also, Jacob, when you have those people that are a little bit on the smaller end, you're going to get a lot of people that reach out with like $10,000, $20,000. And what I have found to be successful is I bundle them in partnerships where I have two friends that are very close. We combine their money together, and all of a sudden now they have $100,000 for the two of them. And I kind of treat them as one lender because they're mutually very, very close. And I find that, I can just partner them together and say, okay, let's piece you on that deal. And that's a way of using smaller chunks, in my opinion, when you have people that kind of have a network where you say, hey, bundle together with your friend who has that, and let's put you on as a second position.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah. Jason, I've been in that range too myself, that 50 to 70,000. I'm usually telling people that reach out in that context, like 70,000 is the minimum with me.
Yeah, I think that's setting the floor is good. Scott's advice on putting two lenders that are comfortable. And here's another thing. If you're going to put somebody in second, you absolutely have to 100% of the time disclose that there is somebody that's in a senior position to them and they're subordinating to the lender in first position, right? So if you have Kiavi in first and you're bringing somebody to cover the gap, you need to be very clear in writing in your email exchange, just in case, to cover your ass, that you let them know that it was in second position. Okay. So make sure you guys are disclosing that and you have a paper trail. I can't emphasize enough. You need a paper trail in writing just in case something goes sideways. Okay. So make sure you do that. Right. So now we have identified what private money is. We've identified who those people are and where to find them. We've talked about how do we broach that subject, and then how do we take that conversation to the next level and dive a little bit deeper and get a verbal funding commitment. So now we've got a verbal yes that they're on board, ready to do one of our deals. We've set the expectation that if we send them a deal, we need an answer in 24 to 48 hours. And we've gotten the commitment as far as the amount that they're willing to lend, right? So now all your job to do is what? What's your job now? It's not a trick question. What's our job?
Close the deal.
Find a fucking deal that matches the amount of money that they need, right? That's what we're all in business for, right? So our job is to, at a high level, keep our fucking pipeline full of deals. It needs to be bursting with opportunities. So then that way you don't look like an asshole talking all this big game and then you don't have a fucking opportunity from them. Does that make sense, right? So the pressure that you guys should feel, and I mean pressure in a good way, is we have to keep, once we get this person's money out, this is always the way that I thought about it. Once this money goes out, it's never going back. We have to keep serving up deals to this person for 250, 300 grand. And that way, when escrow's getting to close on the deal that they funded, I'm like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Lender, just want to let you know, it's been great working with you. Our escrow is going to close here in a few weeks. I know that you're going to be getting about X amount of dollars back. We have another couple opportunities in the pipeline. Would you be interested in me sending that over so you can roll your money into another opportunity and keep getting the returns that you're getting, right? Your job is to keep your pipeline full, because if you get their money out on a deal or two and then it sits for an extended period of time, what do you think that they're going to do? They're going to find Jason on social media and they're going to reach out to Jason and they're going to be like, well, Jason looks like he's busy. I liked getting these returns every single month. Let me go back to somebody and find somebody that can keep my money working consistently, right? So our job is to keep it working, not just get it working once, but keep it working. So that's a separate call, but we've got to keep our pipeline full of deals, right? So pipeline is full. So now we've got a full pipeline. We've got to peel off an opportunity out of that pipeline and we've got to send a funding request. Okay. So here's what a typical funding request looks like for me. Okay. This is exactly the way that I do it every single time. Okay. Let me share my screen. This is it. Not brain surgery here, guys. Okay. This is a deal that we have in escrow right now. Actually, let me show you guys the deal. And then to add what? I don't think so.
Sam, don't look too hard. I know you want to take it.
Hold on.
No, I like what he added there when I was just going to ask that. I like that you have the 6 month with an optional 6 month extension.
We'll go over the terms because this is
Yeah.
important, right? And these terms are all negotiable. So here's the deal. Really simple, clean house in Clovis. Where is it at? On Acacia. Acacia, there it is. Okay, so we are, this came from a pay-per-lead site. We locked it up the other day. We are in contract for, I think 300, Scott, is that right? 300 grand. 300 grand is what we're in contract to buy this for, and it needs to close. Close of escrow on this was
November 3rd, I think, or something.
But they've asked to close sooner, right? Didn't they ask to close sooner? Is this the same guy?
We've been asked. Yeah, we've been asked so many things, but there is never a date provided.
All right. So here's the deal. So this is how I send this out every single time. Okay. So in simply looking at our documents, I have a CMA. The CMA supports my ARV. It shows all the comps, right, that support my projected resale value. And we've got our MEO calculator. The MEO calculator shows our ARV, our rehab cost, our max offer, and all those other things. Okay. Now I'm at a point with me. I'm going to tell you what I do, and then I'm going to tell you guys what I think you should be providing if you're brand new. Okay. So we're going to go over what I do first. The format of the email should be the same, whether you're new or you've done 100 of these things. Okay. So this is our lender. I say, hey, Mrs. Castro, we're planning on closing the deal you funded on 705 Garrett Street this week, right? This is me in her ear saying, hey, you're getting money back, right? I wanted to see if you're open to funding this new project that is closing in mid-October. The property is located at 14 Acacia Ave, Clovis 93612. It's both a desirable and an affordable neighborhood in Clovis. Property is currently owned by an older gentleman who's moving it into assisted living facility, only needs minor updates, okay? We're buying it for 300. We're painting the inside. We're doing the flooring on the inside and listing it for 400, okay? So we're going to be in it for 320, 325. It should sell for 400. And as a wholesale, I think we're going to make somewhere between 45 and 50 grand as long as all those numbers hold up true. Very clean, very easy, delivered vacant, right over by Old Town Clovis and Bicentennial Park. Nice neighborhood. I think it should be pretty simple and straightforward for us. We're in contract to buy the home for 300 grand. We expect to invest $15,000 to $20,000 in the rehab and sell the property for 400. Here are the terms of the loan that I'm requesting. First thing I put is total loan amount, $320,000. This is the amount that I want to borrow. So what am I borrowing there? I'm borrowing my purchase price and I'm borrowing my rehab costs, right? Because it's a wholesale deal and frankly, we're pretty flush with cash right now. I don't need to like over leverage my deals and pay to borrow excess holding costs and rehab costs. But there's been plenty of times where I may have said, hey, I want 330 or 340 on this deal, right? So you guys just have to put a loan amount that makes the most sense for you and where you're at in your business. I'm paying her a 1% origination fee of $3,200. This gets paid at the close of escrow when we buy the house. Does that make sense to everybody, right? She's going to get a 10% monthly interest-only payment of $2,666.67. Does everybody know how to calculate your monthly payment? Does everybody know how to do that? Does anybody not know how to do that? Shake your head no or drop in the chat and I'll show you the formula really quick. Does anybody know how not to come up with this number? We're good. Okay. I do a 6-month term with an optional 6-month extension. Who gets to exercise that option? It's me, my option to extend. Why do we want to have an optional 6-month extension that we get the right to exercise? Why would we want to negotiate that into our terms?
If the property doesn't sell in time or if you need more money.
Come up with the whole laundry. Yanette is 100% right. There's a whole laundry list of things that go wrong when you're flipping houses, right? You could be buying it with tenants and you need to evict them. Squatters could break in. It could take longer to rehab. It could sit on the market longer. You could accept an offer. It gets dragged all the way down. Then the seller backs out and you have to go back on the market, right? So our typical flip, we're in and out of in probably 4.5, 5 months, right? So if all I gave myself was 6 months, we have no cushion in case I want to pivot, right? So I always like to have that optional 6-month extension. And then I put no prepayment penalty. Why do I not want a prepayment penalty?
Casey, you're gonna pay it off early.
I don't want to be not rewarded. I don't want to be what?
Penalized.
I don't want to be penalized. That's the word. I don't want to be penalized for doing a good job and selling the house in fucking 3 months. You know what I'm saying? And I want to have the option to do what with a lot of our deals? What's
Wholesale
the
them.
wholesale them? The
Wholesale.
strategy that's been working for us is wholetailing, right? Now, this one, we're not going to wholesale because there's a pretty clear path where we put in a minimal rehab and we can get 400 grand on this house. And we're already getting into a slow time of year. So I don't want to waste a week or two on the market seeing if somebody blows me away with a wholesale offer. We're just going to fucking hit the ground running right out of the gate, right? So right before we close, we've got our carpet and paint guy lined up. We've already got our bids. We're going to have them start right away. We should be in and out of this house in a week, 2 weeks max, right? For everything fully dialed, and it's back on the market for $399. Okay. But we do want to wholesale, right? And I'm very open with our sellers, like, hey, or with our lenders, say, hey, sometimes guys, to mitigate our risk and your risk as a lender, the market's a little volatile right now. So I don't want to be flipping 50 houses at the same time. We may elect to get in and out of this property if somebody blows me away with an offer just to sell it as is. And in that case, this loan's going to get paid off quicker. But here's the thing. If it gets paid off quicker, it's actually better for you. Why is it potentially better for this lender if you have a full pipeline full of deals and you can get the loan paid off faster? Why is that better for the lender? How do you present that to them?
You give them another deal and another origination point, and
Right? So the money turns 3 or 4 times in a year instead of 2, and they make an additional origination fee. So in theory, they should be making more money, guys, right? So John's 100% right. The more that we can turn their money, the better the return is for that lender. Yanette, were you going to ask something?
Yes, I have a question. Why is there an origination fee? If it's like, I thought that was more for like lenders, like mortgage, where it's like you have to pay your lender, like the.
Yep, it's just a little kicker. It's like a little incentive that we give them. It's a little bonus.
Mhm.
Now, the cool thing about private money lenders is everything's negotiable. There are no set terms, right? So you guys can start wherever you want to start with your interest. You guys can start with whatever you want to start with the return you're going to offer them. The very best lender that I have is 8% interest deferred at the end, no points. So whose money gets worked the most? That lender, right? So whose money stays at the top of the list, right? When we've got lots of people clamoring to give Jason money, and whose money is always going to be a priority? The people with the best terms. What's another factor that would make me bump a lender up to the top of the list to keep their money turning more? What are other things that we would take into consideration besides the interest rate or the terms that they give us being more favorable? What else?
How quick they can get it to you?
How quick they can get it to you, meaning like how fast they say yes and get the money to you. So, right, how easy they are to work with. I would put it in that category, right? Do I need to fucking walk them through the house, basically do an appraisal on my own, fucking sell them this whole deal? Or do they just say, Jason, just tell me where to wire the money, right? Ease of use is going to be another thing. What else?
The amount.
The amount is a big one, guys, right? The amount is a huge one, right? I've got a couple lenders that are in the $500 to $1 million range, and I want all of their fucking money out all the time, at all times, right? I don't want them to feel like, and I've even had them say that to me. It's like, Jason, I don't want this money back. Just please keep it working. I've got a lender that we're getting ready to pay him off 700 grand. He's got another 140 grand out on another deal. So collectively he's got 840,000. And he's like, Jason, I don't want to see that 700 grand, because he's had it out with me for basically 2 years at this point, right? So this is a guy that works in corporate. He was my old boss, fucking believe it or not. It's my old boss from corporate America. Yeah. So this guy was my boss at the last fucking job that I had. The guy had like $2 million in the fucking stock market. He got wind that I was doing what I was doing. And now the guy's giving me $840,000 of his money. He works for Kaiser, and he's getting 10% interest on 840 grand, guys. Like, think about how much money that is every month. What's the math on that? 8,4 divided by 12. He's making $7,000 a month from me. He's probably making as much from his job at Kaiser as he is from the interest that I pay him on his private money loan. So his lifestyle and his income is essentially doubled by what we're doing. Remember, we talked about at the beginning, we're providing real value to our lenders, right? That's a real life example of me providing real life value to the people that we're giving these investment opportunities to. And I couldn't tell you how many people, both friends, family, and strangers, that have come to me and said, fuck, Jason, dude, I'm on, like, especially when we retire, a lot of times income comes down, and now I'm on this fixed income, this extra 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 that I make from you. I use that to live. Like, I use that to live my life. And so you really can be doing some very impactful things for these lenders when you're doing stuff, guys. Right. So,
Hey, Jason.
Yep.
How do you answer any tax questions as far as
talk to your CPA? Talk to your CPA is answer number one. Okay. Answer number two, the way that you're going to tax your lender. Okay. You need to provide them with a couple different forms, right? Charlotte, is Charlotte or one of our team members on this call? Who's on our call here? We needed let me attach this vendor. Well, you can't use our vendor packet because it's branded with our information. Here's what you basically need from them. Okay. Once you say yes and they commit to fund a loan, the very first thing you need to get them to fill out is a W-9. Is everybody familiar with what a W-9 is? This is what we pay our subcontractors or our contractors, right? Anytime you pay somebody over $600 a year, you need to get a W-9. That's not negotiable as far as I'm concerned. Don't fuck around with that. All right. So don't do I did this and I'm guilty of this. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't do, but it was always like cash or let me pay your wife and let me pay your brother-in-law and then like try to spread the payments out. And you do all this shit to keep it under the $600. That's not how a normal business fucking operates, guys. Treat your business like an actual business and it will perform like a business. Don't be cheap when it comes to doing stuff like this. Anybody in your company that you write a check for over $600, including your private money lenders, you need to have them fill out a W-9. We also have them fill out a vendor packet. And that vendor packet gives them two different options, okay? It shows their name, shows their address, and then it allows them to take their payment via a check in the mail, or we do an ACH. ACH, guys, will 100% be a better option than sending a check. Trust me when I say that. We do, how many ACHs do we do every month for our lenders? A lot. Jennifer does a lot of ACHs every month. So all of our contractors, all of our private lenders go on ACH. It's way easier to track. It avoids the, hey, my check got lost in the mail, or hey, this happened or that happened. I always prefer to pay electronically when I can. Okay. So once they said yes, do those two things, right? So tax purposes, going back to that question, they're going to get a 1099 INT at the end of the year. So whoever's doing your books and whoever's doing your taxes, they should do a regular 1099 for your contractors. And your lenders get a 1099 INT. That's 1099. The INT is for interest. So they're going to get taxed on the income that they generate from the interest that they collect, right? So going back to the example of my old boss, he gets $7,000 every single month from me. For the year, he's going to get a 1099 INT for $84,000. Okay. Whatever he does with that is on him. I don't care what he does. He can claim it. He can do whatever he wants. I don't think he claims that money. That's on him. Okay. What we do is we need to cover our bases. So the 1099 has to go out. Okay. So whoever does your books needs to do that. Okay. So for tax reasons, anything else above and beyond that, he needs to talk to the CPA. Okay. Back to this deal over here. When we put the funding request in, I will typically attach a CMA. I'll attach a rehab budget and an MAO. And that's what I send as my documents. Here's a tool. This is also attached in the files. I'm going to go over this quickly because we're running out of time. Here's a tool that you guys can use. If you want to do something that's a little bit more in depth, which I like to do at the beginning. Hold on a second. That's not it. Stop share. Hold on.
What is the last thing you mentioned? The MOA?
MAO calculator. That shows what we're going to offer on the property. Okay, so take a look at this, guys. So this is in the files that I've attached. This is the house flipping spreadsheet. This is a really, really cool tool. Very useful for you guys to come up with really nice, fancy reports to share with your lender. Okay, this This spreadsheet, I'm letting you know right now, takes about an hour, maybe two, to really get a hang of it because it's very, very in depth. But the information that you can get out of this is and the tools specifically are very, very cool. So this is one that I've already created on an old deal, right? So you open this spreadsheet up, always make sure you enable the macros. So when you open it up, have to enable the macros in order to get all the formulas to work. Once the macros are enabled, go just click on the very first thing and you go step by step. So you go to setup. When we go to setup, it lets you put all the information for the deal on there. So you've got the property address, you've got the bed and bath count, all the stuff from the tax records, what the after repair value is, what you're buying it for, your loan amount, all your interest can be plugged in, right? So you're going to have to take time and fill all of that stuff out. Okay. Once that's filled out, then you go to the next tab, which is your rehab estimate. This is one of the most detailed rehab estimates that you can come up with, right? You can literally like budget for the amount of nails and screws that you're going to buy on this thing. I don't recommend that you do that, but you can put all of your rehab numbers in and come up with the rehab number. Okay. Then you can go to this rehab analyzer sheet. Okay. This analyzer sheet allows you to put all of your closing costs, your holding costs, your commissions. This, if you've never penciled a deal, this is a really good way to make sure that you're not missing anything, because you can't skip a lot of the costs that a lot of times when we're new, we don't even know what we're paying. So this is a really good check and balance for those of you guys that are new to really make sure that your numbers are in line. So you got to put all this information in too. Then here's the cool thing. This is where we go to reports. So if you were new, okay, what I would do is I would format the email exactly the same way that I put it together. So the format should be the same. You don't need to go crazy with the email. There's two different reports that I would include, okay? Number one, I would include my rehab estimate. You have a nice, pretty detailed rehab estimate. Why is it nice to attach this as part of the due diligence that you're sharing with your lender? What does it show about you as the investor?
Shows that you put in the time and you know what you're talking about.
And you've
You're not
done your
just
fucking
throwing
homework.
stuff against the
Exactly,
wall.
right? It shows that you're not just here back of the napkin fucking, oh yeah, the roof is X, this is Y, here you go. It's like I took some fucking time to really think through all of this. I have my shit together. You can trust me when you lend me $300,000, right? So I like this rehab estimate attached as its own individual report, okay? The next thing that I like to do is I like to look at the funding presentation sheet. This sheet right here, okay? This comes as just a one pager, okay? In here, you can put, I would just cut and paste the synopsis that you have in the email, right? The breakdown of where you got the deal, what's going on. I literally cut and paste. I put that in this property overview section. Then it's got all of their numbers on a nice, pretty spreadsheet. So it's not something nice that you can quickly reference with them. So it shows the resale value, the total investment, how much interest income they're going to earn, how many points they're going to get, the total amount to the lender. It's clear here that they're not participating in the equity in the deal, so they're not touching any of the profit. And it shows what you're making. Again, something that's nice, that looks neat, that shows all the due diligence is there and ready to go, guys, right? So if you want to use this, again, it's referenced as an attachment that's on there. You guys can use this. And if you need help dialing this in, just give me a call and I can walk you through it. It does take a little bit of there's a little bit of a learning curve getting used to this one, but it's really good to make you feel really confident and show the lender that you're doing all your homework. Okay. So now we've sent this out. Okay. Let's go back to this. Here's my email. Okay. I've got my lender copied on there, and I've got my team member Lelaine copied on there, right? So let me show you. This went out on September 26th. Everybody see the date right here? September 26th is was when I sent this. She responded to me via text. Let me show you the text that she sent. So the 26th is when we funded. And Tuesday, what was Tuesday's date? I don't know, whatever Tuesday's date was. Was that the 1st? She said, good morning, Jason. I'm ready for the new project. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a successful day. That's it. That's literally it. That's the only communication that me and Mrs. Castro are going to have about this deal. I'm not going to talk to her again about it. She's not going to ask me anything. Like, that's it. That's the extent of it. Now, I borrowed cumulatively millions and millions of dollars from this lender over the years. So all I've got to do is just send that, and then she tells me where to send the money. But it doesn't need to be more complicated than that, guys. Right? I think a lot of times we make it seem like it's like this really big, complicated thing where there's all this stuff that has to happen, and it does not need to be that, right? So let's go back and let's show you how we get this thing across the finish line here, all right? So now we've got the funding request in writing, okay? I've got my transaction coordinator, Lelaine, copied on this, okay? Jason used to be the one that would funnel all this information and do that, and then we just copied Lelaine. Once they get a confirmation, then we'll show Lelaine's email here. Hold on a second.
The first one, boss.
That's the escrow. So that's you opening escrow. Here we go. Here's Lelaine's email. So on Tuesday, October the 21st. Okay. This is it. This is all that has to happen. Okay. Hi, Love, Need, and team. We're going to be working with a private lender to fund this deal on 14 Acacia Ave. Here are some the terms of our loan along with the contact information for the lender. Where did she get all the terms from the loan? Where did she find that information?
Your email.
She literally cut and pasted it right out of the fucking email, guys. That's it. She just takes it, she copies and pastes, puts it right there. She includes the contact information for the lender. And then she says, I've copied the lender on the email so we can all be on the same page. I'm going to be securing the evidence of insurance. Please draft up the lender documents. Okay. So who's doing all the work from here?
Your team.
Love Need and the escrow officer. Love Need's team. The escrow officer is doing all the work here, guys. I do not need to go draft up a note. I don't need to get the note recorded. I don't need to draft up the deed of trust. Part of the fees that you're paying title and escrow to do when you're doing these transactions is to do all of this fucking work for you guys. Do you know who else coordinates with the lender? Love, Need, and her team, right? Is the lender, should you be getting money directly from the lender ever, in my opinion? I think no. I think that's a big no-no. If you have a very, very close relationship and it's family or whatever, that's one thing. But even then, I like to have a very clear paper trail where it's very clear Jason is not initially touching the money. Okay. So since Love, Need, and her team are the ones putting the deal together, they're the ones that are going to send the lender their wire instructions. They're the ones that are going to receive the funds. They're going to take that money. They're going to pay off the seller, and the balance that's left over, about 20 grand in this case, where does that money then go to? After the seller's been paid, who gets the money?
You do.
I do. Do we need to do any draws? Do we need to have somebody come out and check up on our work? Do we need to request money from our hard money lender? No, we get all the money that we need right up front so we can get started right away. Very clean, very easy. Okay. I attached copies of the example promissory note that we use and an example of the deed of trust into the files in the chat if you guys want to reference any of that. But again, we don't draft those documents up, guys. That's what the escrow officer does on our behalf. So our job is just to connect people. Our job is to make the connection with the lender. We connect them to title. Title does everything else. The only other thing that we need to do, Lelaine mentioned it in the email, is what? What's the only other thing that our team needs to do in order to get this thing done?
The evidence of insurance.
Okay. So the insurance is important. Okay. Who needs to be named as a payee on your insurance policy?
The lender.
The lender. Why does the lender need to get named as the payee?
Because it's their money.
It's their money. So God forbid something catastrophic happens, right? The house burns down, or, you know, a flood or something crazy, right? This is, again, giving your lender peace of mind. I would get out in front and tell the lender that. I would just say, hey, beyond just the house being put up as collateral, right? We're going to get a fully coverage, an insurance policy with full coverage on the house. And God forbid something crazy happens, you're going to get named as the payee on this. So if there is a big insurance claim, that money needs to funnel through you, right? So they need to get their money back, and then any other additional proceeds will come to you guys, right? If you had a large loss like a fire or something like that, right? So the only other thing that you guys have to do is get insurance. Your lender needs to be named on insurance, okay? Then right now it's smooth sailing. We're like 1 yard line here, right? So the day of closing comes, or the day before closing, title sends the lender wire instructions, lender wires the money, seller gets paid, we get the rehab, everything's done. And then what do we do after that? What do we have to make sure that we do?
Close your projects within the 6 months. Or as soon
Yep,
as
but
possible.
before we have another project, what's important?
Pay them.
We got to pay the fucking lender, right? I mean, we got to make sure we pay them as they lend us the money. So they're not going to give us any more money unless they pay them, okay? Unless we pay them. So let me share with you guys the spreadsheet that we use on a monthly basis just to track everything. Then we'll open it up for any questions, and then we'll jump off. So let me show you guys the spreadsheet that we use here. Say it again. I'm not going to send it because it's got everybody's information on there. Where the hell is this at? Private lender. All right, hang tight, guys. Let me find this really quick. This is actually a really useful tool. Let me just find an example of one here. Okay, here we go. All right. So for those of you guys that work with our accountant, David does all of this for us. So like Sam and like those of you that are working with David, your accounting team should be making all of these payments for you. So we've got our loans broken out by company. So we've got the company at top, Pinnacle Investments, which is our investment company. I've got my partnership, and then we've got our rental company down here. So we've got all the loans broken out by company so they know what account that the money needs to go out of. Then we've got the date of the loan. We've got the address. We've got the amount. Then we've got, let me open this in Sheets so I can actually maneuver this thing here.
Jason, real quick, when you guys
Yep.
close an escrow and you pay the lender off, is David always CC'd?
No, David is not CC'd. The way that we do it, I do a final check of the HUD before it goes and closes. So for me, this is still something that falls on my plate, Sam, because I'm signing. So I'm looking at the estimated settlement statement, and what I'm always looking for is what is the prorated date where interest is due from? Because we've run into plenty of issues where, not intentionally, but because the lender, a lot of times they're not savvy and they don't know. They get this payoff demand and they're like, well, what dates do I put on here, Jason? Like, what am I supposed to fill out? So sometimes they'll put that I owe interest all the way back to when the loan funded, because they're thinking, oh, we gave Jason the money from this time to this time. But in reality, I've already been making them payments and I only owe them interest from whatever current month we're in, the first of that month, to when escrow closes. Does that make sense to everybody? We don't want to double pay. And we've done that a couple times just because we've whipped through it. I'm doing that spot check, and then I'm letting David know in my weekly financial meeting with him, hey, this loan's coming off the books and this one's coming on the books, right?
Okay, yeah, it makes sense, because I got a text from one of my private money guys, and luckily they're just all good people. And he's like, Sam, I think I owe you $2,500. We closed the loan and we still ACH'd them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Thanks for being, honest, but
We've got to, we talk about private money lenders the last week of the month, Sam, because we're getting ready to prep for all the payments that are going out the first, right?
Got it.
As part of my weekly call with David on Fridays, me and Cade, we carve out some time to go over all the loans that are on the book. So we talk about everything that's sold, everything that we're buying, which lenders coming on, which ones are coming off. And, you got to think about it like nobody's going to know that more than us, because we're the ones typically that are raising the money. So even when we put stop gaps in there so our team can keep up, you know, it's easy for it to fall through the cracks. So we've got to stay on top of that. Okay. Let me
Got it.
share this again with you guys so you guys can see it. This is an older one, but you can see. So you guys can see, again, we've got the loan date, the lender, the amounts, the total amount. This is my monthly payment. Okay. Right. So just think about this shit, guys. Okay. End of every month, beginning of the month. One company, I owe 25,000 in interest. Another one, I owe 25,000, and one I owe 9,000. That's $60,000 worth of interest. That's just going out. So we always talk about getting these fucking projects turned around quickly. The reason why they need to get turned and off the books quickly is because I'm stroking a check in this particular, this is an old one that I just pulled out of my email in 23. I'm stroking a check for 60 grand every single month just for interest, guys, right? And if we're not properly capitalized, meaning we don't have enough operating reserves in our business account, this can creep up on you and it can be lights out very quickly. Does everybody follow what I'm saying? Like if we don't get revenue coming in and we don't get projects sold, 3-4 months of $60,000 worth of payments with no revenue coming in, it's all bad, all fucking bad. So we've got to be really diligent about not just keeping our front end of our pipeline full, but this assembly line that we're creating, when those deals come out of the pipeline, it can never fucking stop. It can never stop moving, because as soon as something stops or it gets bogged down because one of your contractors went haywire and ghosted you, or the city shut you down, or insert whatever fucking reason, you're not seeing money on that deal coming in, guys. And that's why we made some really like key decisions on being a little bit more fluid with wholetailing, and flipping. Because when we were flipping 90% of our projects, our fucking cash conversion cycle was like this, right? We would close a bunch of deals. We would be flush with cash. I'd feel rich. Then we'd immediately buy a bunch of deals. I'd feel like the fucking brokest person on earth, and I'd be stressed out and I'd be crazy. And Jennifer and I are getting in fucking arguments because I'm all fucking worried. And then we'd sell all the stuff and we'd go on a trip, and then it was just, it's not the right way to run and operate a business, guys. So I would choose to be a little bit more even distribution with the way that you guys are doing your deals, and also make sure you're properly capitalized with enough cash. Okay. So tracking and managing this stuff is very important, right? Cool. We kept pretty good attendance for this for the most of the part. How do you guys feel? You guys feel good? Questions, concerns, anything before we jump off here?
Hey, Jason,
Well, thank you for going over everything.
Say it again.
I said, thank you for taking the time to go over everything.
You're
Appreciate
welcome, bro. Hopefully this was useful for you guys. Private money is one of those things that's long game, guys. And if you do this the right way, when you do this the right way, okay, it will open opportunities to do larger deals. A lot of you guys see us like showing some of these bigger opportunities that we're doing right now, okay? Impossible for us to go buy a $5 million warehouse. Impossible for us to go buy 80 acres of land to develop in Bakersfield if we hadn't been grinding our asses off for the last 10 years, building all of these relationships. Does that make sense to everybody? So if we want to graduate and start doing deals that go from like 5 figures to 6 figures to 7-figure profits, we've got to start by properly capitalizing ourselves and making relationships with these lenders. This is like outside of finding deals, the second best thing that we are the best at. The 2 things, 1 and 1A, is raising money. That's it. Sourcing deals and raising money are the 2 things that we are the best at in our company, right? Everything else, we're good, but that's where we excel. And when you can get great at those things, you guys can be the conduit for all the deals. You're the person that has all the leverage in that negotiation. The person that brings the deal to the table in a transaction is the one that has the most leverage. And when you can couple that with the ability to capitalize and close on projects, you should be making the most money in the deal, because now you have all the firepower that you need, and contractors and all the other things. Those are much easier to find than these 2 things, guys. Right? So hopefully we can get you guys scaled up with this. If you guys have any questions about how to structure these opportunities or how to put these things together, especially if you're in the coaching program. This is all stuff that we can talk about on our calls. We're really good at this stuff. All right. Questions, concerns, anything before we wrap up?
Thank you.
Jason,
Those
I
are
do
great.
have I do have a question.
Shoot, Milton.
So, typically for some of mine, I'm getting hard money, and I'll give you an example right now. I just closed on one actually yesterday, and my father-in-law wants to, I mean, come in and I guess provide gap funding. So how would I do that? Like, do I do a promissory note and then like record it, or how would I do that?
The
'Cause I've never
ideal
done
way
that
to do
before.
it, that's a great question, Milton. And this is, I bridged the gap to get to the point where I'm at right now by doing exactly what Milton is talking about. So this is a really good question, especially for those of you guys that are kind of dabbling between private money and hard money and using both. The ideal way to do what you're talking about, Milton, is you do both the hard money and the second position loan for your private lender in the same escrow to avoid having to pay multiple escrow fees. That's the best way to do it, right? So you're, again, we said very open, Dad, I'm letting you know I'm borrowing money from this person. They're going to be in first position. We can make your smaller amount work, but you know that, how much is he lending you?
For that one specifically is 50. It's his
So-
first time, so
Yeah.
he inherited some money, and then I was like, well, if you're not doing nothing with it, like he had it like in a like those in the bank, basically like a CD
like
or
a
something.
CD.
Yeah.
Like I have people that bring money out of CDs, that bring them out of bonds, that lend right out of their retirement accounts, right? Those are some of the best ones because they can't touch the money anyways, right? Like if they're lending it out of an IRA or a tax deferred account, you can't pay that lender directly. You have to pay the custodian for that account, and the money needs to go back into the IRA. So those people are the best because whether you pay them monthly or you pay them at the end, it doesn't matter. So they always will prefer deferred interest for accounting reasons. So that's just an aside, right? We didn't get into that, but talking to people that have money in a tax deferred account, a self-directed IRA, for example, great places, because now they can get 10% returns from you guys, right? And they're not tied into the stock market or anything. But the way to do it, Milton, is in the escrow that you're going to close, bring hard money in first. And then you do an email just like Lelaine, just exactly the same example as Lelaine did. You just say, hey, escrow officer and team, we're working with a private money lender. They're going to be in second position. Here are the terms of our loan. And here's the contact information for the lender. And it says, here's the loan amount. Here's the interest. If I'm paying them a fee, you're being very clear that they're in second position. And the way that you justify second position, guys, to somebody that only has 50 grand is like, hey, you know, Mr. Lender, I know that you want to work with me. I want to work with you too. But here's the deal. If all you're saying is that you have right now to lend is 50 grand, okay? The problem is I can't go look at the real estate prices, guys. If I buy a house for 50 grand, I mean, that's like a once in a year deal, maybe if I'm lucky. 50 grand is not enough for me to do an entire deal on its own. So the way that I can make that work is if you're okay going in second position, I would use your money as gap funding. And I'm going to bring in a hard money lender in first. You're going to go in second. You need to understand what it means to be in second position. This lender has seniority over you. So God forbid something happens to me, they're getting made whole first, then you're second. Okay. And there's risk associated with that. And I want you to know and understand that risk. But this is the way that we have to work together until you get to a space where you maybe feel comfortable lending out a bigger amount and being first position on your own, right? But the way you do it now, what I would do if it were me to set the right example, especially because it's Dad, I would just bite the bullet and pay another $1,500 for escrow fees, and I would have them recorded in second for me. I feel like it's more professional. It looks better. It's all that stuff. Now it's Dad. My dad is like, Jason, why don't you just take the money? And I still do it with because my dad lends me money too. So I would still do it with my dad where I run it. That's how I personally would do it if you're asking me, Milton. I just like there to be kind of an arm's length between everything. I like title touching the money. I like it feels more professional. It doesn't feel like, hey, I'm meeting you over at the account and you're cutting me a check or you're wiring money to my account. I just don't like the way that feels and looks. I just like it funneling through a third party. So I would bite the bullet and do that and then do it at the same time the next time, dude.
I've borrowed a lot of money from family. I have always told family, I'm going to treat you like I would treat a stranger. I've seen these deals blow up families as well. So if it was Scott doing it, which I'm actively rotating families' money, I would never do it as if it were anybody but a stranger. So I run it all through title. I
Yep.
pay the extra fees. I've
I would
never
too.
taken it directly.
Yep. Just do it all at the same time, and then you don't have to worry about the fees. And then that way, when you go to pay, it's all done once. And then when you close, it's all taken care of. That lender already has contact information or that escrow officer already has it's just very clean. There's familiarity there with them. We want to create a repeatable process, guys. So then that way they feel comfortable. And at the end of the day, we're borrowing a lot of money. We have to take this shit very seriously. This is not like something that we fuck around with, dude. Like, if anything, I'm way more risk prone with my cash than I am with a lender's money. If I'm trying a new deal or I'm doing something new, I'm going to use my money first, prove that concept, and then we're very, very, very diligent with the money that we borrow from other people. And when you treat it that way, the universe will always reward you guys, right? Through referrals, through friends and family. All my friends and family started lending me money without me even asking, just for me doing good and providing great value to the other private lenders that I was borrowing money from. And then they would just reach out to me. That's exactly how it happened. They're like, damn, dude, your business is crushing. Like, how do we work with you? Like, how do we get involved? And I can't think of one time ever on a typical fix and flip project where I ever gave equity to one of my private money lenders. Does that make sense? I've given equity up on this larger Bakersfield deal because it warranted it that. And that's something that's a little normal on some of these larger projects. I'm not saying that if it's the difference between doing the deal and not doing the deal and you've got to give up a little equity, that's fine. I'm not telling you guys not to do it. But again, it's all the way that you structure it and the terms that you negotiate. So the way that we've always done it is saying, hey, you know what, you get the reason, because I've had people ask me like, hey, I'm giving you all the money and I only get 10%. And the reason why I say that is because, hey, I'm the one, my company and we're the ones doing all the work finding this deal. We're the ones spending all the money going out. We're the ones dealing with these fucking crazy squatters. We're the ones dealing with these sellers. We're the ones dealing with getting it sold. We're taking all the risk. So if I make money, great. But if I lose money, guess who's not participating in that loss, right? I'm not asking you to participate when we lose. So I'm going to take the upside on the deals where we make money. Because I've had not a lot of deals, but I've had deals where I've lost money and my lenders would have never known the difference. They got paid in full every single time. And it's very important, guys, that we all put our big boy and big girl pants on here. And if you're going to take a loss, you should not be asking your lender to participate in that loss with you guys. You guys are going to have to take that on the chin and you make it up on the next deal, right? And if anything, that solidifies the relationship with that lender even more. Like, you don't need to promote that you're losing on the deal, but if it comes up in a conversation, which me and like, you know, conversations afterwards are like, oh man, how'd you do on 123 Main Street? And it's like, I'll be like, you know what? I fucking lost 30 grand on that, dude. And they're like, you lost money on that? And I was like, yeah, dude, I lost money, but it's more important for me that you get made whole and you feel confident that, God forbid anything happens with me, you know that I'm solvent, you know that I'm liquid enough to take care of you, because it's about the long term. It isn't about what we do on just this one deal, right? So that type of stuff shows really true character. And I'm sure you guys are seeing all kinds of fucking crazy stories. Like, when market's great, everybody's making money, money's fucking flying around, market's going down. There's lots of people with all these fucking scams and all this crazy shit that's going on where they're taking money from people and they're being, you know, just frauds, outright frauds and scamming people, dude. And nobody here on this call can do that. So we've got to be really, really diligent with how we're doing it. So good. This was good stuff, guys. Muath, what was your question, man?
Yeah, I got a question. I don't know if you went over this, but let's say you have a person that's not able to fund the full deal. Let's say you would have to get multiple people to be able to become private money lenders. So they each do like 3 of them, 75, 75, 75. So do you split the 10% that way? Like 3
Yeah,
points?
I would just give them 10% based on the loan amount that they give. And I would be careful also. It's like 2's company, 3's a crowd. That's kind of the rule that I would use with this. Like, if you're getting 3 people on, you're kind of pushing the envelope of how many people you're doing it. What I would suggest that you do is you do what Milton's example is. We bring hard money in for the bulk, and you bring one of those people with 75 in as a gap lender in second position. And what did we say our job is to do? Our job is to have a pipeline full of deals, right? So you have one person with heart. So, and again, it's better for you to do it anyways that way, bro, because instead of tying all three people's money up on one deal, you can spread that money out across 3 deals, use hard money in first, private money lender number 1, it was 75 in second, number 2, number 3, right? So it allows you to scale, right? So I would not, honestly, I would not structure it that way. I would put the guy that you feel like is going to be the best lender that you're going to borrow with, put his money out to work first, second, and third, dude. And then again, your job, pipeline full of deals. The more deals you have, the more you can keep them working. And now you're doing 3 deals instead of 1.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Good question, bro. Good question.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm not trying to jump off, guys. If you guys have anything, this is the time to ask when it comes to money.
How about Jason for bigger deals? Like if it was like a 20 unit or something and you had multiple people come in, would you just create an LLC and give them equity to that LLC? And then when you cash out refi, pull them off and put it back into Pinnacle in your case?
Funny that you asked this. Next Thursday's training, okay? Scott and I are going to be doing a whole deal review on how we're putting together the $5 million to buy this warehouse. So
Got it.
we'll have a much more extended answer for you on Thursday.
Okay.
So just a little teaser for you guys if you want to join in on that and see how we put a $5 million deal together. We're going to go in the weeds with that. The short answer, like on that Bakersfield deal that we did,
Yeah.
okay, we formed a new entity, okay?
Yep.
So initially, my company went in contract with the seller. So Pinnacle Investment was the buyer on the car purchase agreement with the 13 sellers that we bought that 78 acres of land from, okay?
Got it.
What we ended up doing was I had my attorney, once we figured out like what my interest was going to be, what my partner who found the deal, his interest was going to be, and who we were borrowing the money from, we had my lawyer create a new entity, okay? And the new entity structure had my LLC as a managing member retaining a 45% interest. It had our partner's LLC as a managing member retaining 45% interest. Then we had the 2 lenders that lent us the $1 million, 500 and 500. It was a little bit off, but let's just call it that for the sake of round
Sure.
numbers. Okay. They each got 10% interest on their money, but deferred until we sold the project. Why do I want to defer?
Those are big payments.
Fuck, dude, that's a fucking 10% on $1 million. A lot of money, guys, right? Remember, we were talking about what my strokes for all the interest are every month already with my main business. I don't want to add another $8,000 or $9,000 on top of that, right? So their interest is accruing, getting paid at the end. In order for them to agree to get it paid at the end, we let them have a share of the equity. So the 10% that's left over, we split it between those 2 guys. So they're going to get a little taste of that deal when we sell it. And they're going to get a really good return because that's going to be a great deal. So their money, they're gonna do well on that one. So that's one example of how we're doing it.
Walk me through that. Are you guys selling that deal in Bakersfield or cashing out refi and keeping everything?
So we are. Let me show you, dude.
We don't have to get into the weeds. I know you have the.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I love talking about this shit. So hold on. Let me show you guys really quick.
Sam, also to clarify, I think was the question about if we refi, what do we do with the lender?
Yeah, because I'm just saying, like, if I have like a piece of property I'm looking at, it's like 20 units, right? And I have to put 25% down, so I'm probably gonna gap fund it, and there may be 2 lenders that are friends, or maybe 3. So I'm trying to figure out, instead of like putting people in second, should I just open up what Jay's saying, a new entity, put those people in the entity and do it that way? I've never done that before.
That seems a little bit like more work, unless you feel like you can do it like with less work. I probably wouldn't form a new entity and do all that. It's just more accounting and more bookkeeping. I just do it how you'd normally do it.
Okay.
Okay, guys, here is our lot study. Okay. So we had our engineering company has put together a preliminary lot study. Here's our address, 5801 Morning Drive. Here's our APN. Okay. We've got 78 acres total. Okay. So this rectangular shape right here is 78 acres. Okay. This bottom corner right here, the smaller rectangle in the bottom right-hand corner is 13 of those 78 acres that are zoned for R3. These are high density apartments that we can build. For every 1,250 square feet of usable land, we can get one apartment. That's what the density calls for. Okay. So we can get, I think, 300 units built on this based off of that math. Okay. So first thing we did when we bought all 78 acres, this 13 acres and this 65 acres were not split. They were all part of one. So the very first thing the engineering company did was they cut this off and then they split this off. So the 65 acres that you guys see over here, this is all zoned infill for single family houses. Okay. So they've created, I think the count is 243 lots. That's what they've built. Okay. So they've not built, but they've penciled out 243 individual lots out of these 65 acres. Okay. So you can see here's one of the roads. Here's where you access. And then you can see all the cul-de-sacs, and each one of these squares are different lots. Okay. Now it's interesting on what's today? Today's Thursday. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, me, Alan, and the director of the engineering company are meeting with the city of Bakersfield at 10 o'clock. And then we're meeting with 2 different builders right after that, because now that we have this lot study done, we can shop these lots. Okay. So here's the short answer to your question, Sam, and then we'll look at the math on this. Okay. Our plan is to flip these lots to a builder. We can either sell them the paper lots, which we can almost do like right now, or we can sell them buildable lots. Okay. We can take those buildable lots, and my partner and I are going to take that money and we are going to develop this 13 acres here. Okay. The lenders, the way that we structured our loan, are the lenders that lent us the money to buy this are only participating in the 65 acres of paper lots. They will have an opportunity to participate in this. They would be honestly probably the first guys that we speak to, but they are not based on the operating agreement that we set up. They're 2 separate things. The 13 acres and the 65 acres, they're only retaining 10% ownership of these 65 acres. Does everybody follow what I'm saying? Yeah? Okay. Let's do some fucking math here really quick and see. Here's the exciting part here. All right. Okay. So option number 1 is we can do paper lots. Okay. Paper lots, the conservative estimate, this is really conservative, and we both think that this is going to be higher. Okay. The paper lots, we don't need to do anything else at this point. We need to get everything approved and finalized from the city, but we spent $1,050,000 for the land, and we're going to spend probably another $30,000 on all the engineering. So we're in it $1,075,000. Let's call it 1.1 million. We'll just round up just to be safe. Right now, we're almost at the point where we have paper lots. How many paper lots did we say that we had?
243.
43. Okay. These paper lots, conservatively, what the numbers we're hearing are $40,000 per lot. So we don't have to spend that much more money. And right now we take 243,000, multiply that by 40,000. That's how much money we would make in potentially the next year. Okay. And I get 45, that's 9.7 million. Okay. And I would get 45% of that. Okay. We subtract 1.1 because that's what we're into it for land acquisitions and engineering. Okay. We subtract 10%. What's 10% of that? 860,000. Is that right?
You have to do it off the top, 970,000.
So that pays off our 10% owed. We borrowed $1 million at 10%. What's that math? Another 100,000. Let's just call it another $100,000, right? That, because remember, we're paying deferred interest to our lenders, right? So they're getting ownership interest plus they're getting interest on their money. So I would get 45%. That's what I would make in the next, we could probably do this within the next 9 months. Okay. So that's option number 1. Okay. Option number 2, we take 243 lots, and the estimates that we're currently getting right now to sell buildable lots. These are lots where you see all of this if you think back to that map that I just showed you, right now it's just dirt, guys. Does that make sense to everybody? It's literally just a fucking plot of dirt, right? If we want to do buildable lots, we've got to do all the grading. We've got to do all the underground infrastructure. We've got to do sewer, water, power. We've got to put roads in. We've got to put curb and gutter. We've got to do all the cul-de-sacs and shit, right? And then we basically sell them a buildable lot, something that's shovel ready, where they can literally send their guys and they can start building right away, okay? Buildable lots, the infrastructure costs, the estimate that we're seeing to do these buildable lots is $10 million. So we need to go raise $10 million to go do all the infrastructure to get them to be buildable lots, okay? The price that we're hearing that we can sell the buildable lots for is $125,000 per buildable lot, okay? So we take 243, we multiply that by 125,000. It's 30 million. Then we subtract 10 million for our
Infrastructure.
infrastructure. Is that 10 or is that what is that? 10 million?
Yeah.
Then we subtract 1.1 million for our land acquisition costs and initial engineering. Now we're at 19 million. We subtract 10% to pay the profits. We subtract $100,000 for the interest. And then we multiply that by 45%. So that's what, it's like 8 million bucks, I think is what I would get. That's pretty fucking crazy, dude. That's really like, even just I've done this exercise multiple times, just it's because it's still kind of fucking mind boggling to me, to be honest with you guys. Right. So we have to make a decision here very soon. What route do we want to go? Do we want to just flip the paper lots, or do we want to like raise $10 million and do the buildable lots? Right. The risk for us is, fuck, we got to come up with 10 million bucks. Right. So talking about how do we raise $10 million? Because even with the lenders that I borrow money from, we're not going to go tap out every single lender that I own, because what happens to our core business if we do it that way? Right. We can't keep running the main business if we put all of our eggs in this basket, right? So we've got to go raise this money. So how do we do this? Okay. We have a $10 million shortfall that we need to cover. Now that we've got the land parceled out, we've got the 13 acres, we've got the 65 acres, we've got the whole map done, we've got all the engineering done, all the paper lots are done. What do we think the value of that land is? We paid $1 million for it. Does the value of the land increase, decrease, or stay the same now that we've done all of the lots and everything? It increases, right? The value of the land increases, and it's worth probably, let's call it $3 million just to be safe at that point. What can I use as collateral to go to a bank that does construction loans to say, hey, we need to raise 10 million bucks. I've got land that I own, right? I need 10 million. I'll put this up as collateral. I need a $10 million loan. I want 60%. I want 60% LTV, and I'm going to use this as my collateral, right? So I can go to a bank and get on the low end 4 or 5 million bucks, and on the high end, maybe $6 million. So we would put bank financing up at the top to chip away at that 10 million that we owe. And then where do we come up with the other 4 million? We go raise that from investors. The same exact way that we would probably structure how we raise the money for the first one. New entity gets formed. We bring people in. We say, hey, if you guys want to participate, a minimum is going to be probably $200,000 or $250,000, because I don't want to go borrow money from 100 different people, right? And if we can get $250,000 at least from, let's say we need to cover $4 million. What's that? 16 people? I know 16 people that have $250,000, right? Or I could go to my boss who's got 700 grand out with me and say, hey, do you want to do this? Bam. There's 20% of it right there. I've got a couple other people with 500 grand, right? And so we raise the money that way. Okay. So the goal would be to take this. If my partner and I can sell buildable lots in 2 to 3 years, okay, and each of us collectively together, we make, let's call it 15 or $16 million, which I think is a real number. I'm not bullshitting. I think that's the actual number that we would walk away with. 14 to 16 million total. Okay. What we would do, okay, is take that money and pour it into this right here. Because why do I not need to touch any of that money? Because we've got another business that's just running that pays all my bills, pays my lifestyle. Jen and I are very happy. I probably take a little bit off and buy a car or do something, a little bit, but, or a watch or something, but I wouldn't touch the rest of that money. The bulk of the money is going to go into here. Okay. Now we've got 13 acres here. Okay. Follow along with this math. Okay. We've got 13 acres. Okay. And we said it's 300 units on these 13 acres. You guys follow? Right? We said we could build 300. So the cost to build right now, not including land acquisition, we're free rolling this land over here. Does everybody understand that? The 13 acres, we're free rolling it. It's us. We own it outright. We don't even have a land acquisition cost because we paid everybody out. So for this 13 acres, we can build 300 units. Okay. It cost about $250,000 to build a unit right now. That's all the construction costs we're hearing. Safe numbers is 250 grand. 250 grand times 300. It's a lot of fucking money. What's that number? Is that 75 million? Is that 75 million? Right? That's a lot of money, right? How much are we making, my partner Alan and I, from the sale of the lots? What did we say?
15 million.
15, 16 million. Okay. So here's the game plan, right? Instead of taking our 15 and rolling it into 300 units, we take this phase, we take this and we split it up into 3 different phases. So we do 100 units on this first phase, 100 units on the second phase, and 100 units on this third phase. Okay. And guess what's already here on this first phase? A lot of your infrastructure is already there, guys, right? The curb and gutter, all the infrastructure, the power and water, that's already there. So now if I go back to my calculator, we're going to do 100 units times 250,000 a unit. My math is right. That should be $25 million. Okay. How much money did we make? 15? Can I go to a bank and say, hey, even though I'm not a developer, I've got 10-year real estate experience. We don't have new construction experience, but my partner and I, we're willing to put up $15 million in cash. And we need a loan for, what's the difference?
10.
10. Who just lent us $10 million for the infrastructure? The bank that we just fucking borrowed the money from to go do all the curbs and gutter, right? So who am I going to go back and ask for a loan to do the first phase of this thing, right? So we put 15 million up, we borrow 10, we build out 100 units, we rent them out, refinance all that money. And then what does that money go into? The second phase. And then we do the same thing. And then it goes into the third phase. Okay. And then once that's done, we refi the whole thing. We pull all of our cash out. We probably pull some more money on top of that because those properties are worth more. And then I won't be doing any more coaching calls at that point, guys. That'll be the last that you guys fucking see me from here, dude. So that's it.
Hey, Jason, I got a quick question on, I know you said you're meeting with the builders tomorrow. Do you know if any of these builders plan on taking down all 240 at once?
It's a good question, John. I don't
okay.
know. And here's the thing. I don't know the first thing about any of this stuff, guys. That's what's even crazier, dude. Like, you know, what's even fucking crazier is I tell you guys this shit all the time. And this is me living and breathing it and being a real life example of this to you guys. I couldn't tell you the first fucking thing about any of this. I didn't know any of these steps. I didn't know what I was doing. I have a trusted partner who found the deal, and luckily we found each other. The value I brought to the table was to be able to raise the money and get this deal closed in a very short time frame because he had a very short window to close this and he didn't have $1 million. So I provided a ton of value there. He actually asked for less than 45% interest. He was like, dude, I would have been happy with, like, I asked him from the beginning, like, what do you want out of this, dude? Like, what are you trying to get? He's like, dude, I just want to retain 20, 25% interest. Why does it make sense for Jason to be more generous in this particular situation and let him have an equal share to me? Why would that make sense?
He's the
Future business.
Say it again.
future business, and he's the specialist, and he'll bring you more deals.
I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. I wouldn't even have known the first fucking person to call, even if I had closed on it myself. Right. And so now, because I'm sharing a little bit more of the pie, and it's a big fucking piece of pie, guys. We're not talking about tens of thousands of, we're talking about millions of dollars here, right? Going from 20 to 45% is a lot of money. And now, who do you think is going to work hard as ever now to really get this thing across the finish line? And who do you think, and we're already looking at other deals, because all this guy Alan does is land development out there. So who do you think he's calling on other opportunities that he has, right? So of course, my goal is to try to make up whatever percentage I quote unquote left on the table or gave to him. I know for certain I'm going to make that up on future opportunities. You know how I know that's true? It's because I've been doing that my entire business. Right? I'm never going to let anybody take advantage of me, but I'm always going to make sure we win. Everybody wins that's involved in this deal because I want to do more. Right? So,
Hey,
yeah,
Jason, real quick, just for my limited knowledge as well on that deal we've got going up on Atwater, that's going to be similar. You know, we were thinking about 300 lots, and all the builders we talked to it was going to be in phases of like 100 each. And it was going to take 6 to 9 months, like per phase to complete. Just so, just for your knowledge going into that tomorrow.
100%. That's our expectation too. The ideal scenario is DR Horton or Lennar or somebody comes and cashes us out, and they just have a humongous bankroll and a real need, and they're just like that. What in reality is going to happen to what John is saying, right? Like just like everything else, things are going to happen in phases. So this big windfall may not come in one fell swoop, but I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm going to be here. I ain't going nowhere, dude. So it's like, if we sell a phase to Lennar, because think about like a Tesoro Viejo, this is not the size of that, or Riverstone. All right. It's not one builder that's over there building everything, right? Like Bonadelli's over there, and McCaffrey is over there, and different people will pick up different things. And if we do a phase here and a phase there, and we release some capital and we get some working capital, that's not a bad thing for us either. And what happens to potential value of the other lots that come in future phases, guys? I bet you and it's not like we're like paying a shit ton of interest on this thing either, right? So it may behoove us to let this thing kind of work out a little bit. So John's absolutely right. So there's lots of things that are going to come. I'm literally going tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I'm all day in Bakersfield meeting with these guys. So I'll have more to share for you on this thing, but this is like, it's not once in a lifetime, because it doesn't need to be once in a lifetime. This can be a new normal if we want it to be, but it's one of those deals. Every single time in my life over the last 10 years, we've had these milestones where, you know, we did one deal, and then we were doing 2 deals at a time, and then we were doing $50,000 deals. Then we did $100,000 deals. Then we did multiple $100,000 deals. Then it's like you have these things that create these big leaps in your trajectory of your life and your business. And then you break through, and then now everything is different right now. You know what I'm saying? And so this is 100% what's going to happen with this thing. We're going to break through. And my goal for all of you guys, again, is I've never gatekeeped any information ever. And all you guys are here, part of this program, communicating, contributing. Nothing would make me happier than to just give you guys the blueprint and say, bro, here's how exactly what we need to do. It doesn't need to be 78 acres, but maybe it's 7 acres. And then you guys or us, we can work together, do entitlements, and we can make serious money. And it doesn't fucking take a brain surgeon to do this. That's the other thing. Like, honestly, it's more work doing some of the shit that we're doing, guys. Like, it's way more work and way more headache. So it's just pointing our lens at different opportunities and having the confidence to take it down.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Anything else? I'm fucking on one. Jen said I'm fucking charged up, dude. Talking about making $30 million gets me fucking hyped up, dude. So
we do some deals.
That's it, dude. Let's go. Devaniel, bro, I'm sorry this ran a little bit long. I'm going to jump over right now to our call. I'll see you right now. And if you guys need anything, just let us know. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.